If you're a doctor and you are interested in moving to Canada, then draw closer and watch this video. Or if you know any doctor who is interested in moving or relocating to Canada to work as a doctor, please draw closer, because we have our Doctor Gloria, who will be taking us through her process. She relocated from South Africa to Canada, and she's practicing as a physician. I will not talk much since she's here live with us, and she's going to take us through her process, why she decided to relocate to Canada, how her journey has been. The purpose of this video is to help any physician or a doctor, healthcare worker, a nurse practitioner who wants to relocate to Canada. We just want you to know that there is always a way out. People have made it successfully, and there is hope for you. The only thing you need is to subscribe to this page, listen to the experienced people, and then you can just follow suit. On this note, I would like to welcome our Dr. Gloria. Dr. Gloria, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'd like to know a little bit about you, your background, and we can take it from there.
All right. Thank you so much, Christiana, for the invitation. Just to have this conversation with you. I know that I also relied on, YouTube videos such as this in my journey and preparing to come here. So I hope that it will be of help to somebody. Yeah, so you asked me about a little bit about myself. So I'm Ghanaian, born in Ghana, but predominantly raised in South Africa. I am married, mom of three children, and I basically grew up in South Africa, did all my schooling, including university and everything, in South Africa, and moved to Canada October of 2024. And so we also just under a year in. And yeah, it's been quite the journey, and that's basically what we're going to be discussing today.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'd like to know, why did you decide to relocate to Canada? I want to understand the difference, because I know South Africa, I don't know much, but I'm sure it's not a bad place to be. So why did you decide to relocate to Canada to practice as a doctor or a physician?
Okay, thank you. Yes, you're right. South Africa, it's a beautiful country with very beautiful people and lots of opportunities that we got just by having grown up in South Africa. But I would say that there were a number of situations that happened in our own personal lives and my family that kind of eventually led us to making the decision to leave. And the first one what really started the conversation for myself and my husband was just seeing how the economic status of the country was changing. For example, when I finished training as an internal medicine specialist, which was at the end of 2019, I was thinking or hoping that there would be a job available in the public sector, because that's what would have suited me and my family life. But to my surprise, when I finished, there were absolutely no jobs, and I was sitting at home unemployed for about 3 months. Not because there's an abundance of doctors, there are lots of shortage of health professionals everywhere, including South Africa. But the system and the government system was such that there were just no posts available. And so to be sitting there having gone through, such immense training, kind of was what brought the initial idea of leaving. In my husband's case as well, work-wise, because we were both foreign, even though we'd grown up in South Africa, spent many years in South Africa, and we were legal, had all our documentation, we were still considered to be foreign. And so a lot of in terms of advancement in career was a little bit stunted because of the fact that, South Africans had to be prioritized over us as foreigners. So we knew that that was going to be a hindrance later on. And then just in general, of course, crime has always been an issue in South Africa. And we were personally sort of victims of crime, in such a way that it was a very traumatic experience for the family as a whole. And that was kind of the final push for us to leave the country. So yeah, it was a decision that didn't come all at once. It was little situations and little experiences that kind of led us to taking that bold step.
Thank you very much, Doc. I am sure that most of my viewers will relate to those problems. You mentioned issues like unemployment in SA, and most African countries are facing the same problem, like unemployment in most of the developing countries, because I have a lot of viewers from Nigeria, Ghana, and a lot of developing countries who are healthcare workers trying to look for opportunities. So if you are watching me and you are in a situation where you think you are unemployed, but you've gone through a highly specialized skill or a program, then check out Canada, because Canada values people who are specialized in different sectors. So it's not just physicians alone, but if you know you are specialized in different things. Doc also mentioned that because they are Ghanaians and they are in South Africa, they would prioritize South Africans first in terms of jobs. And if you are watching me and you are in the US, maybe you are an international student, because personally I can relate to that. I'm an international student. I trained in the US, but after school, you realize that you don't belong. You have to, until you have your permanent residence or a citizenship or some kind of a permanent legal status, no matter how skilled you are, you might still have some challenges. And that is why I encourage people who are specialized in certain skills to look into Canada. And I think Doc made the right move. At this point, I'd like Doc to take us through the registration. Yes, Doc is done with her training. It takes a long number of years to go through the training as a physician. And now Doc is finding it difficult to get a job in SA. And then as a family, they decided to relocate to Canada. So where did you start it from?
Okay, maybe let me backtrack and go a little bit back into my actual specialty, just so that it can be clear to other people. So I'm not trained as a family doctor or a family physician. There's a separate route for family physicians here in Canada, depending on which province you are planning to go to, which is also a major kind of decision to make. And one of the first things you need to decide on when you've decided to relocate to Canada is which province are we going to? Because each province has its own pathway to getting a license, and the pathways differ between for specialists and also for family doctors or family physicians. So I trained in internal medicine. I finished that in 2019, and then I got the opportunity to train further in what we call pulmonology, or here they call it respirology. I trained in that for about 2 years, 2.5 years, and completed that just before we actually made the move.
Mm.
So the truth of the matter is that everything starts basically having decided which province. You have to go to the College of Physicians and Surgeons of that province. So if it's BC, it's College of Physicians and Surgeons website. If it is Manitoba, it would be the same College of Physicians and Surgeons. That is the starting point. But in BC specifically, there's an organization called Health Match BC, which has been set by the government to guide foreign trained graduates through the process of getting to licensure. And I thought that was what drew me to BC, because I found that the other provinces didn't have a similar structure. So the Health Match was very instrumental in my kind of process. They when I expressed interest via email to them, they immediately reached out to me. They set up a video conference with me, and then they walked me through the process and what documents they would need for me to verify and everything. And they would occasionally also check in with me and check up on me and say, hey, how far are you with getting this document? How far are you with getting that document? So those are the first few steps: finding out which province you're going to go to, because it differs for each province, and then con, con, going to the website of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of that province, and then importantly, no matter which province you're going to go to, this step is kind of common for all of them, is to have your credentials verified. And they use one portal here in Canada called Physicians Apply. It's a website that you go to, you register, and basically what they do is that website, you upload your certificates, so your undergraduate medical degree certificate, your marriage certificate, your passport, your license that you use to practice in your home country. um, for me as a specialist, they wanted me to upload my specialist degree or my specialist qualification. Then they also want you to upload what they call postgraduate training. Postgraduate training is the training that we got in South Africa when you finish medical school. As soon as you graduate, you have to do 2 years compulsory internship. So internship is basically you're a junior doctor. In the hierarchy of things, you're really at the bottom of the thing, and you're kind of working under supervision. You do 2 years compulsory internship, and then after that, 1 year more of service to the government, which they call community service. After those 3 years, you are basically considered an independent practitioner, and you can choose to either be a family doctor without having gone to do a residency in family medicine per se. You are a family doctor, you're a GP, all right. Or you can choose to go further and specialize and do residency in whatever area you want to do, whether it's surgery, orthopedics, pediatrics, whatever it is. That's a 4 year process. But they recognize, Canada recognizes South Africa's internship and community service almost as postgraduate training. So they need you to provide proof that you underwent that training, and out of that training you did 4 weeks, let's say, in pediatrics, 3 weeks in internal medicine, you did so many months in psychiatry. They want that breakdown, right? And it is issued on a certificate given to you by your licensing body in your home country. So that is also uploaded onto Physician Supply, along with some other additional documents along the way. But those were the main ones. Once you've uploaded that onto Physician Supply, you can then share it with any organization within Canada that you're dealing with that has to do with your licensing. So if you're in BC, you can share it with the BC college. If you're in Manitoba, you can share it with them. So yes, so the process for specialists is uploading all of those documents, having them verified. Then you're also dealing, not only are you dealing with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of BC, but you're also dealing with what they call the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. This body is the body that regulates examinations within Canada for specialists, right? So they also want to verify your things through Physician Supply. It's the same Physician Supply, but you can share it with them also. They also want to do their own personal assessment of those documents that you've supplied, and some additional documents as a specialist they'll require from you. That assessment, then you pay for that assessment, and then they issue you a letter. The letter that they issue, they call it a letter of eligibility, which states that they recognize that your training is adequate enough for you to undertake or challenge the specialist exams of whatever discipline you are in here in Canada. With that letter, you present it to College of Physicians and Surgeons of the province you are in, and they will say, okay, we now, having gathered everything together, having verified all your credentials, we now say that we are putting you in a provisional license, meaning you can practice your field completely, but we're giving you 5 years to challenge the specialist exams with the Royal College before we move you to full license. So that is the route for most specialists. But you'll find that South Africa is one of 7 countries that the Royal College kind of, it's called approved jurisdiction route. They
Okay.
have they have chosen South Africa as one of those 7 countries where if you're able to gather all these documents and show it to them, they'll give you that letter very quickly and very easily. If yours is not part of those 7, then they have other routes that you can follow from the Royal College as a specialist. Right, from the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. They have, they call something, oh gosh, I've forgotten the PER, practice eligibility routes. They have so many different routes, right, that you can follow. So I went through approved jurisdiction because South Africa is one of those countries, but other countries would have to go through the other routes. It's an expensive process, I won't lie, dealing with Royal College, dealing with the college of whatever province you're dealing with, and then the health match. So that is the route for specialists. Family doctors come in either through, in BC, let me talk for British Columbia, where I'm based. Family doctors can come in through 2 main pathways. And again, the first point of call would be to go to Health Match BC. They will guide you. But what I've seen happen is that there's one route called the Practice Ready Assessment, PRA.
Okay.
PRABC, where it's a very competitive thing. Where, as a family physician, if you've come in with a foreign degree, you've gotten your internship, you've done internship, and you've done one or two other things, there's one examination that you must have done. Then they will assess you over a period of 12 weeks, and then they will maybe put you in a community of need. But again, your starting point is always health match. They screen every potential candidate before they move you to the next step. So I think if there's the take home message from this is that contact health match BC to get the process started if you are coming to BC. If you're going to any other province, their websites, the college websites will be able to guide you better. Family physicians can also apply for residency to actually match into the residency programs here. But I think a big component or a big requirement for that one is that you must be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident holder to apply for the 2-year residency program through family medicine through a university here in BC. So that is a little bit of a challenge. So most people are going the PRA BC route for family physicians. Yeah, most end up using that route.
Thank you very much, Doc. So, if you are watching, there are certain takeaways I want you to take note of. I was actually making some very important points as Doc was talking. She made mention of health match, but even before health match is BC. BC is supporting people to move, especially healthcare workers. As if you've been watching my videos, I talk a lot about BC because I'm also in BC and I came through BC. And Health Match assisted me as well during my transition as a nurse to Canada. So Health Match, but before you use Health Match, then you should be coming to BC. But if you are going to another province, then you have to look out for their system as well. Other provinces might also have similar support systems, but you have to find out. But one important thing, even if you don't know where to go or where to start from, once you decide, okay, I want to go and practice in this province, the first place to go is the College of Physicians website. You can even send them an email. Maybe if there is a support consultancy in that province, I'm sure they will have a lot of information to give you. So even if it's not BC, where we have the health match consultant helping, you should go to the College of Physicians and Surgeons website
Of
for
that,
the
yeah.
Am I right?
Yes, for that province, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you can even send them an email if you think you are having challenges.
Yes.
Yeah. And another thing Doc talked about was the jurisdictions. Even for nurses, they do the same thing, like US trained nurses, UK, New Zealand, those countries have easier process because usually
Yeah.
the education is similar to the Canadian standards. But if you are coming from an African country, then you have a different route, which doctor talked about the PRA.
Yes, for family physicians. Yes.
Okay, so if you're a doctor watching us and you are not sure, I think the first step is to decide on a province.
Yes. And
And if
there are many reasons or many, yeah, ways of deciding which province. I mean, it's a personal, whether you have family or friends or someone within that province, or
yeah,
yeah, so many. We all looked at those kind of those kind of elements to decide, because when you read, they say BC's weather is a bit favorable. It's a bit temperate.
mhm,
But BC has sections. There are sections north of us that are very cold, like your area is
yeah,
cold.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's not a blanket rule. We all get snow, so I don't think you can escape it anywhere really.
yeah.
But yeah, just to consider all those factors.
Yeah.
Mm.
So doctor is talking about factors. And if you've been following me, in my previous video, I made a video about the 7 things to consider when planning to relocate to Canada. So if you don't know how to even decide on a province, just watch that video because I gave 7 points and it includes the weather and everything Doc is mentioning. So just check out that video and then that should guide you to select the province. And then once you do that, you go to the College of Physicians for that province. Once you get to the website, then you can take it up from there and follow the processes. So, Doc, you mentioned that you would have to also assess your transcripts because for nurses and other things, they usually use the West.
Yes.
Do,
Okay.
do you also use the West for
No,
that?
no. For the medical assessments, no, we didn't use WES. When you upload it onto Physician Supply, they send it to some organization. I don't even know. It's called ECFMG, I think. I forget the full name for it, and they are the ones that sort of verify all of these things. So we didn't use WES for medicine. The WES came in for me. I think it was for my master's. Yes, so for my internal medicine, what do you call it? I had a degree associated with my internal medicine qualification, and that went through WES. But everything else is sent to that central body that does the verification. So for each certificate that you upload or each document that you upload onto Physician Supply, there's a fee attached to it that you have to pay, and then they'll send you messages through that same portal if they deem your document not to be clear enough or not to be whatever. They'll let you know, and you'll get an email to say that go back to the portal and see what they are talking about. So the time frame, it really differs. From the time you upload till when you get the verification, it really varied. Some of mine took only a couple of weeks. Some lingered for months, only for me to trace it back to them not being able to get hold of somebody who. So it can become a little bit of a thing. The one document that I had, it's called an internship duty certificate, which lists the breakdown of the rotations you did as an intern, that needed to be verified. For some reason, they were not able to get hold of the South African licensing body, which is called HPCSA. They were not able to get hold of them because they are the ones who issued that certificate, and so that took months and delayed the process quite a lot. So every now and again, I would advise that if you've uploaded documents, just keep checking and following up to see how far the process is and what the hang up is. Because if I hadn't followed up, I also would not have known. And then, yeah, kind of try and fix it as much as you can. So yeah, it's an expensive process. I won't lie. The whole process is expensive, but I think that once you've arrived, you realize that it is worth what you spent, and that you'll recuperate that money back. It's just getting that money that is the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Thank you very much, Doc. If you've been following, I always say that the immigration to Canada is always worth it. All the process, like even if you're a nurse, care aide, pharmacist, it's very expensive. You will pay throughout. And even for me, I had to pay different provinces because
Mhm.
I initially registered in Alberta. I
Okay.
wasn't getting a job. I have to pay again in BC to
Yeah.
get their license. So you'll be
Yeah.
paying.
Yeah.
But Doc said something that he said you recuperate it
Yeah.
once you start working. Yeah.
You do recuperate it once you start working. It's painful during the
Yeah.
through it. For me, I think what helped us, and how I was able to pay for it, was that at the time I was working almost like working two jobs, in the sense that I was working my normal job, and then on weekends I was locuming. I was doing locums for other doctors who needed a break, maybe from their practice over the weekend. So that's how we were able to eventually sort of gather up the funds to do it. But yeah, it's not an easy financial journey to be on.
It is not easy. It requires a lot of investment, but
Yes,
it is definitely worth it.
I
This
would
is
say.
your takeaway from
Yeah.
here. Okay, Doc, I want to know that duration. We just want to have a rough idea of how long it took for you to obtain the license to say that, oh, finally you got your license. Because I know you need the license because before you can even start their immigration aspect because they are, but in the license phase,
Mhm.
how long did it take?
So I think I started, okay, the whole physician supply, everything started towards the end of 2022, beginning 2023. And then just we came here October 2024. So just before we left, about August 2024, I had sent through everything. It looked like everything was on par. I hadn't received the physical license because you can only get it once you arrive. Once you arrive is when they want final proof of your resident, your, what you call it, your address, your phone number. Those kind of things have to be uploaded onto their system before they will issue you the license. So the actual license only came through 2 months after we had arrived. So for a period of 2 months, I was at home because there were some complications with my documentation once more, but it shouldn't take long if the verification process goes through and goes through easily. I think that tends to be the hang up, where they are not able to reach your people who they need to call to verify. It shouldn't take so long. So for us, the hang up came when we arrived here. They said some of my documents that I had submitted, the time period had expired and they needed me to resubmit them, which meant contacting South Africa again, and so a whole lot of back and forth. And that was the delay. So it shouldn't I would say that the whole process of of submitting everything and actually sort of being told that you're eligible should take up to 6 months to maybe a year, if there are no major sort of delays and hang-ups. And it's also up to your finances and everything as well that can sometimes delay the process. Yeah, so it can be done within 6 months, I think. It can definitely be done within 6 months. And the immigration process it's a separate entity altogether, right? Yeah.
So, Doc, I would like to know for a physician from Africa,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the people who are desperate to relocate are people from developing countries.
Yes.
In terms of the financial benefit and all that, most of these people would like to, relocate for better opportunities as physicians. Do you think it will be more cumbersome?
Mm-hmm.
Because you said your South Africa is part of the seven jurisdictions. So
Mm-hmm.
say even that took 6 to 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
we'll say that was less complicated. So,
Mm-hmm.
even with verification, some delayed, although it is part of the accepted countries, right?
Yes.
So, for someone coming from Africa, this
Yes.
person is outside
Mm.
the,
Yes.
the jurisdiction they want. For a physician from Ghana, Nigeria,
Yeah.
Togo, watching you now, what do you have to tell them?
I think the difficulty and the challenge that in our systems, record keeping is not so paramount. And so that is where we struggle to get. For example, I had to get a document from a hospital that I worked at more than 10 years ago as an intern, or 14 years ago as an intern. So how does somebody sitting in that hospital 14 years ago remember that there was once a Doctor Gloria who came, so that is the problem that we face, is going back to those institutions that you worked with to say, I need a letter that says that between this period and this period I was here. That is the main challenge. If you don't face that challenge in your own personal life, you kind of have worked with one institution, or you've only worked with a few institutions, you can easily contact them to get the documentation that you need. Then it shouldn't be a delayed process, because it's a specified thing that they need. They will say, we need a letter let's say for me as a specialist, I did residency. They need a letter from your dean or from your residency head to say that these are the rotations you did as a resident between this time period and this time period. That person. It's one person you need to get the letter from. It is when the difficulty comes in when they want to go even further back, to the beginning of your career, and you have to kind of contact these people. For that is the challenge. But as soon as you're able to produce those kind of documents, then they don't have a problem on their end to kind of verify. So the challenge is with our own systems and the fact that our records are not so easily available. Um, and yeah, it's not a disadvantage per se, because the fact that it's an approved jurisdiction does not mean that I will escape and not have to write exam. There's no pathway coming to Canada that does not require a review of your assessment. I mean, an assessment of some sort
Yeah.
once you're in the country, before you begin practice, or after you've been practicing for a while, there'll be an assessment to verify um, how I guess competent you are. So that one, I don't think there's any escape from it. So the approved jurisdiction does not mean that I'll not write examinations. I've written lots of examinations that I'll have to come and write again. For example, internal medicine examination, I have to write it again. I did it 5 years ago. I have to Canadian one and come and write it. The good thing is that they'll give you 5 years, from the time you start practicing or whatever, to write that examination. But none of us will escape coming from outside Canada. None of us will escape assessment and examination. It's a painful truth, but once you accept it, you kind of just move on from it and know that you have to do it. In BC, one of the requirements was that you write what they call MCCQE, which is like what their final year medical school student would write. That since 7th of July, as I'm talking to you now, just this past 7th of July, that has been removed. It's no longer a requirement. So I did that exam in 2023, and it was difficult because it had been many years that I had done those subjects of, psychiatry, pediatrics. I've moved away from that long ago. But that is no longer a requirement for licensing, which is a great relief for a lot of people because even that examination itself was not cheap. So that has been removed as of 7th July, 2025, which makes the process a little bit easier. But as for the specialist exams, they will not forgive you. They will not just take, even if you come from the UK, you will still have to write their examinations to get their qualification. The fact that it's an approved means that we recognize that it's similar to ours, not that it is the same and identical to ours. So you're going through the system without any assessment. Yeah, so that is the challenge. So it's not impossible for someone coming from a developing country as long as you're able to produce those documents and they can verify it. That is where the challenge comes, and it's on our end.
Thank you very much, Doc. So the takeaway I had from this is that it is not easy for anyone, whether you were trained in the United States, even here in Canada, even UK, South Africa, and even Africa. As a physician coming here, you should know that you will still go through the same or similar procedures or systems because you'll still be assessed, you'll still do the necessary exams. So don't think that if you are not trained in the US or one of the 7 jurisdictions, you'll be more complicated. Yeah, it could be, but know that no matter where you were trained from, you will still go through some kind of scrutiny, and it is not like a so smooth process.
Yeah.
So what I always encourage people is to be very tenacious in this immigration process. It is not like a quick it's not like a quick travel scheme where people were like, oh, I'll do it for you and you come.
Mhm.
No, you go through the process. So
Yeah.
you need to be determined. You need to be ready financially, mentally, for your examinations and everything for you to be successful. Doctor did it, and you can do it too. Thank you very much, Doc. So you have taken us through the license and how you decided to move to Canada due to certain few points which you mentioned earlier. And then you also showed us the website and where you had to start the process for BC. And then you have gone through the process and you made us understand that it could take like 6 months to a year to go through. And no matter where you are from, as long as you are given or it is approved that yes, you can do it, you just need to be determined, very tenacious, get some financial or some budget ready because it is an expensive process, and get ready. I want to know, which pathway did you use for the immigration side?
Okay. So I went through Express Entry. I created an Express Entry profile. My points were not adequate. They fell below the cutoff that they were drawing, and so when the job offer came, then that boosted my points, and then I got PR. So I actually applied from South Africa before arriving here. I went the job offer came through the BCPNP kind of route. Yeah, so that in addition with my express entry boosted the points, and then we've got PR. Yeah.
What is the feeling that after all the struggles as an immigrant in SA, and
Yeah.
you went to school and you have a job, you have a like a provisional PR and we
Yeah.
are relocating. And what is the feeling for you and your family, that transition?
Yeah. So let me say that the health match guys directed us and told us to actually apply for a work permit. So it wasn't provisional PR, but a work permit that we entered with, and then within 2 months, the PR, 2 to 3 months, the PR came, and to have gotten that PR, I mean, it's almost unheard of, right? To go to a country and then within a few months be a permanent resident of that country. For example, in South Africa, you have to have been a resident for about 5 years. So it changes between 5 to 10 years before you can apply for permanent residence. So it was quite an amazing thing for us to experience, and it kind of obviously the whole family benefits from it. Yeah, so it's been quite a nice experience because it opens up, then your healthcare, also gets sorted out because you're a PR holder. Um, and other benefits that we will yet reap when we file our taxes and those kind of things. So yeah, it holds a lot of weight. Even for job searching for my husband, who's also not in the medical profession, it carries a lot of benefits. The fact that he's a PR holder already, because I think they look at that um, when they are employing people. So it has been a great experience for us. It was almost a seamless kind of transition, which we are very much grateful for.
Thank you very much, Doc, for sharing this. I think I can easily relate to whatever Doc is saying because I also went through the same BC route. I did the express entry. I didn't have the points,
Yeah,
so the PMP gave me that extra points, and then I was selected in the express entry, and
yeah,
then I used a work permit to relocate, and in 6 months I got a PR. But in Doc's case, in 2 months, she got her PR. When I post a video, there are people who come to the comment section and say, it's a lie. There are no jobs in Canada. Stop it. The people try to say some of these things. So I'm happy that you are here live sharing your story.
yeah.
People, I've made a lot of videos explaining to people where they should find the jobs because if you go to where everybody is going, there's a lot of competition. So
Mhm.
people will say there are no jobs.
Yeah.
But Doc, I want you to tell anyone who is watching and they feel like there are no jobs or opportunities in Canada, what do you want to tell them from your experience?
I would say, I think we can only speak really from the medical or healthcare industry. That's what we know. I would say that there's a great need. There's a great shortage across the medical field. So not just doctors, but nurses, allied health professionals, and there are pathways that have been expedited for us, such that ours goes through quicker. If somebody's express entry will take 1 year, if you're a healthcare professional, it's a shorter period to get the permanent residency. The caveat about the jobs, though, is that they are not always based in the big cities. And that is something that we must just be aware of. That when you want a job that is closer to the bigger city, like for example here in BC, our big city is Vancouver. If you want any of those hospitals near Vancouver, as a physician coming in, they need you to be fully registered. Those hospitals require full license, and full license is only given to someone who has sat their Royal College examination or their family medicine final examination, so that you've gotten a Canadian qualification. That is when you get full, and you cannot do that from your home country. You have to be in the country to get that examination, to sit the examination, and then to be given that designation. And so those hospitals around sort of Vancouver, Delta, Surrey, those areas, yeah, they tend to be the stricter kind of. Most other hospitals within the slightly more rural or further away from the larger cities accept provisional license. In fact, they want people with provisional licenses to come through. So it is not a barrier at all. It is when I was searching for jobs, I was amazed at how many internal medicine jobs there were really being advertised. Same for family medicine or as a family doctor. And to be a family doctor, you don't necessarily have to have finished family medicine residency. I think that's also another thing that holds people back. is that they think that they should have completed a family medicine specialization in their home country before they can come. If you're practicing as a general practitioner in your country, by virtue of you displaying or showing them that you've got that experience, they can take you to that PRA route that we mentioned earlier on, which is basically an assessment of your skills and everything. And then you practice your family, you practice as a family doctor. So it's not to say that you have to have a special qualification. Yeah, so the jobs are here in terms of medical jobs. They are many, and they need family doctors. There are some communities that don't have at all. There are many patients here who have not been assigned doctors. It's amazing to actually see and how appreciative they are that you have come. It's also another thing because it's not something that we're used to back home, where you as as a doctor are appreciated. People think you're doing your job, you're getting your money. What do we owe you? You know. But here they actually appreciate that. Oh wow, you've left your country and you've come here. We're so thankful. You know, we're grateful that you've come. Because you've come, I am now your patient. You know, there's that sense of appreciation, which is quite nice to see. Yeah. So no, there are medical jobs available across the nation, not just BC. Across the nation, they are desperately in need, and people shouldn't be deterred by the process. The process, if you don't take care, you'll give up.
Yeah.
Frustrated, you'll be frustrated. You'll feel frustrated. You feel like, I've worked so hard to get to the point that I am at. Why should I have to prove to you again that what I'm saying is true? That is essentially what it is. You're having to prove yourself over and over and over to them, and it can get frustrating, and you can feel like, let me stay where I am. Yeah, but if you don't and you persist, it also yields its own fruit. Yeah.
Doc has said it all, guys. And at this point, if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe because we have a lot more people to bring on board. And we have a lot of people who want to share their stories, their journey. So don't give up on your Canadian dream. As long as you have the skill that they need here, all you need is to be ready and take some action. Doc, before we wrap up, I want you to tell us, working here as an internal medicine practitioner, how is it like? How is it different from South Africa? Are you enjoying it? The feeling so far, how is it going?
For me personally, I would say that it has been a steep learning curve, but also one that I'm enjoying currently. I think after 6 months, I feel like, okay, I'm finally settling in. The reason why I say it was a steep experience is that in South Africa, it is there are two different medical worlds. There's the public sector and then there's a private sector. Private sector is like anything you would find in Europe, in USA, everything that you'll find there is there, right? And I worked in the public sector where we are treating the masses and there's barely any infrastructure, barely any resources. So it was quite frustrating and a lot of just seeing a whole lot of patients in a short space of time with very little resources. Having come here, this is a public sector in the sense that everybody is entitled to the same level of healthcare. And so um, it's rewarding in that sense that yes, you are still treating the masses, but you don't feel this huge, overwhelming thing because the resources are there. The difficulty or the steep learning curve for me also came in because in South Africa everything was handwritten and notes, physical paper, hard copy paper you were writing on very little admin and administratively to do really. But here there's a lot of administrative tasks involved in our job. Everything is electronic. Everything is based on an electronic medical system. And for me, who was not very technologically savvy, it was yeah, it was difficult. It was really difficult. But it makes the process so transparent. It makes healthcare so transparent that if I write a note, it is put on a system that a doctor in Vancouver will see and also know that this is what you were thinking about the patient. So it is that much easier. And once you get used to it, it makes your workflow that much better. In terms of patient load, it's not anywhere near what we were seeing back in South Africa. In a day, in South Africa, you could easily see up to 30 patients as an internal medicine doctor. But here in a day, if I'm lucky and if it's really busy, maybe eight, nine, 10. That is on a very busy day where I feel like, oh, wow, I've really worked hard. So the patient numbers are less, is you get more time to spend with your patient, but there's a lot more administrative tasks involved. So you're not as like I used to walk a lot in my work, just to walk up and down to the wards, and here you're sitting by a because everything's computerized, so you're mostly sitting in front of a computer, entering notes and that kind of thing. It's fulfilling. It's fulfilling to be able to help patients with what they need, and to make do with very basic, minimal stuff. The other learning curve also is that as much as it is a public system and everybody has a right to access whatever, there are restrictions. If you haven't filed your taxes in however many years, there's certain medications that I, as a doctor, cannot prescribe. So those kind of small little things you have to kind of learn as you go along, but you learn them on the job. You learn them as you go along, and they support, right? They support from so many different organizations and doctors organizations, even colleagues that you work with. They can kind of guide you through the system. No one will find it immediately easy, but it gets better. It gets better with time, is what I'll say. Yeah, so I'm happy. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It's different to what I was doing in SA, but in terms of patient load and patient numbers, but still the same. Internal medicine is internal medicine is internal medicine wherever you go. It will still be pretty much the same pathologies, I would say. Less infectious diseases than what we used to see. I haven't seen an HIV patient yet. I haven't seen a TB patient. But yeah, the cardiac, yeah, cardiovascular diseases are here. The what you call it, lung diseases are here. The same kind of things we used to see. So it's not like it's something you've never heard of or never seen before. Some of the medication might be a bit different. You would have read about it but never actually used it yourself, and that is where the learning comes in as you go along. Yeah.
So Doc said it's a learning process, but
Yeah.
there is support. Resources are there. There is help.
Yes.
And it gets better
It
with
gets
time.
better. It does get better
Yeah.
with
And I agree with that. As a nurse, the same thing. You see the challenges, you go through it,
mm-hmm.
but there is support. One thing I know, there is support.
Yeah.
And you learn on the job and you ask if you don't know. That's
Yeah.
what I always ask,
Yeah.
just to be sure, because it can be, sometimes things can be entirely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
On this note, I would like to thank Doc. Doc has told us a lot of things. And if you are a doctor or a physician watching or who have watched this video, I know you would have learned a lot. Please put something in the comment section what you've learned from the session today. And let's say thank you to Doc for this insightful information. And I know that wherever you are watching from, if you are planning to immigrate to Canada, this video will ignite your passion and then it will kick your Canada dream alive again so that you can grab your laptop and start doing something. Thank you so much, Doug. And remember to subscribe to this page because we'll be doing more of this. It is Christy Connect, and my name is Nurse Christy, and I'll see you in my next video.
Bye bye.
Bye.